Baby oil apparently is the thing. At least that's some of the allegations, new allegations coming out against Sean Diddy Combs. We've, of course, heard the story of the 1,000 bottles of baby oil that he allegedly purchased from Costco. Costco saying, we didn't even sell it like that. But he's got it. Why does he have so much? Well, we may have the answer to that. The allegations in one of the lawsuits claim that he is drugging the baby oil with something maybe like a GHB, some sort of a date rape drug to induce drowsiness and loss of consciousness. Joining me to discuss, Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent. Jennifer, have you ever seen this before where it's not drinks, it's not some sort of food that's being consumed, it's literally the baby oil that is tainted with a date rape
No, I have
drug? Good.
never I've never seen that, for a couple of reasons, right?
Hmm.
GHB and ketamine and other drugs that are used to just sedate people a lot of times in these sorts of crimes have to be consumed. So
Hmm.
typically, baby oil isn't consumed, but let's think about this. I guess the audience can use its imagination about the body oil, baby oil being all over the body, and then, maybe people consuming it in that area. And so, because of that, it then, it
Consume.
then it then would
Oh,
take effect.
it's true.
So, I mean, I have to say, if they prove that it's true and they're going to test all that, the government knows already. Um, Ingenious, I guess, for somebody wanting to do this type of a crime.
Well, could I mean, I just if we're talking logistics of it. Obviously, there's like topicals and things like that out there. A lot of times used for relaxation. You see it with CBD, you see it with THC and stuff. I guess it's not that far of a stretch to assume that. Well, I mean, I guess if applied to the body, it would eventually go into your bloodstream in some way, shape, or form. I'm thinking that's probably what if these allegations are true, what he had in mind.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no other reason, right? If
Hmm.
it's proven that indeed that baby oil is laced with one of these drugs such as GHB, then that's the obvious reason why. But the only caution I would give is that I have not seen the government say that. The
Hmm.
government was very specific,
Hmm.
and you would think that if it was baby oil they seized laced with GHB, that that would have been denoted,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
wasn't
Mhm.
in any of the court documents. So I hesitate to believe it's definitely true,
Sure.
but would I be surprised? Oh no.
Would the government? I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, when they went in there and they seized all this stuff, and they found the 1,000 things of baby oil, would they think to even test the baby oil, or would they just look at it and go, "Okay, here's the 1,000 things of baby oil. That's pretty weird." But would they think, "Let's test this to see if there's something else in it"? I don't know that if I were investigating, that would even cross my mind at that moment.
I mean, you bring up a good point, but certainly they would want to investigate. As
Now,
we all
yeah.
know, the baby oil typically has that barrier, a
Hmm.
silver barrier, oftentimes that you have to peel off
Hmm.
before the oil will come out so it doesn't make a mess. I don't know if it's on all brands or just
Yeah.
some brands, but if anything looked like it had been tampered with or maybe a needle mark at the top of something. So, in other words, was it truly sealed? If
True.
it wasn't truly sealed,
Mhm.
then certainly investigators would want to see if there was anything else in there. I think they would look because it's so unusual to have 1,000 bottles of baby oil. I
Yeah.
think they would be wondering, is this really baby oil? So, I mean, yes, in answer
Yeah.
to your question, if I'm on scene, whenever I was on scene and saw something odd like that, always wanted to look into it.
Well, and then it makes you wonder, like, if this in fact is true, did they, basically taint all of them at once, or was it kind of as needed? We're going and mixing this in. I mean, there's so many possibilities, but it really does show, if this is true, just the covert lengths that this man went to sedate people and to get them into the state that he wanted them to be in. It's very disturbing. And then it starts to make you wonder, well, if he's willing to do that, I mean, obviously he's willing to do a lot of things allegedly, but if he's willing to like put this in the baby oil, it really makes you wonder what else is going on behind the curtain here of Diddy. What else are these guests walking into? What else is going on that they're unaware of if they're at these parties? And does this, in some way, shape, or form, if in fact it's true, would this provide some sort of, I don't know, out or some sort of uh, grace for those who may be found in these videos at these parties, if in fact they have this on them and they're being affected, but they're unaware of it being affected? Could that be an argument for them saying, "Look, yes, our client is performing horrible things in this video, but they were drugged and they didn't even know they were drugged."
No, absolutely. I mean, I think some people were completely taken advantage of. I mean, I would expand on what you said to even include the fact that he had 1,000 baby oil
Hmm.
bottles of baby oil there. In other words, the volume of possible victims,
Hmm.
nobody keeps that amount around unless you literally have a huge number of individuals coming in that you're trying to sedate, if you will, or engage in these types of sexual acts with, right?
Hmm.
So no matter what, whether it was tainted or not, just the
Yeah.
volume to me, when I first heard that, I thought, geez, how many does he go through a day?
He found a really good Amazon Prime sale, I'm sure, and just said, "Let's buy it all." Or something. It's
Oh.
so bizarre. Let's talk about Diddy's mom. She came out this last week with a statement. At least it came through Diddy's attorneys that she has a statement. Let's talk about that first of all. Maybe questioning the legitimacy of the statement that was made, considering it came directly through Diddy's attorneys. Calling this a public lynching, obviously very much in favor of her son, downplaying all of the accusations that have been made against him, saying it's a public lynching. They're just out to get her son, just because the video shows him beating the hell out of Cassie and stomping on her head and throwing things at her and dragging her by the hair down the hallway doesn't mean everything else is true. I mean, it's bizarre. Obviously, if it's a mom, she's probably going to stand by her son no matter what. Is this something you think that she actually said? Do you think she truly released this statement, or is this something where Diddy has control over even mom and says, "Look, here's what we're going to say. You said because we have no one supporting us right now."
Well, I think point A is the most accurate, and that is this is her son. He's been very successful. Certainly, a mother is never going to want to believe this about a child. We've seen it over and over again with even people who are murderers and serial killers, where their mothers stand completely by their side and really never want to believe anything. So I think it's a true statement. I mean, I think it's truly from her thought process. I'm sure tweaked down and dialed in to say what the attorneys thought would be best. But he has amazing attorneys on
Mhm.
this case, and they're going to be looking at every angle they can to mitigate and to at least cause the public opinion to stray away from the lynching that sort of happened on social media. So I think it's a combination, but I think his mom is standing by his side.
But was this a wise move for an attorney? That's what I'm surprised by. He does have good attorneys. This did not seem like a very smart letter to release. Almost about as dumb as the apology video that he put out there, probably without his attorney's consent, that was now pulled down off of Instagram. It doesn't seem like this makes a lot of sense to put it out there because nobody's looking at this going, "Oh, well, his mom says he's a good boy. He must be a good boy." This just seemed to add fuel to the fire of an already raging inferno. Here comes mom dumping another large gallon bucket of gasoline onto it, saying, "None of this is true. There's no fire in front of us."
Well, at this point, their set of facts they're working with, these attorneys, is just so egregious and terrible.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't see that they have, at least at this point, with what we know. I mean, what else are they going to say? They've
Hmm.
taken a very interesting view, Tony, as you've probably seen, that basically this is all voluntary. This is consensual sex. There was no minors. Yes, it might not be what you or I would do, but this is nothing other than, some crazy sex parties with people who wanted to be involved in them. And I mean, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
That's what they're putting forth. What else it's kind of like when they said Brian Koberger was out driving around. Well, they knew the defense knew they couldn't disprove that, so they just have to run with it.
Mhm.
That's kind of how this is. It's almost like they're saying, yeah, all of this happened, but everybody was, consenting.
I want to ask what your reaction was to her appearance outside of the courthouse the other day, along with the family. They were there to support him in the latest hearing. But I gotta say the dress, choices were rather interesting. It kinda looked like she was specifically mom. Everyone else seemed to be kind of dressed, I guess, normally, if you will. But mom kinda looked like she was going to, like, the VMA awards or something when she went into that courtroom. Very fashionable to kind of an extreme extent, I would, almost say. It's kind of an odd look, to have, your rap video best going on when you're showing up to the courtroom where your son is being accused of such horrific charges.
Well, it's certainly flamboyant,
Hmm.
but is that just her personality and how she always dresses? I had never really kept much track of
Hmm.
Diddy's mom until now and ever really seen her much in the public view because I wasn't looking. But I think it truly is just her and her dress. Uh, could she have gone much more demure and it had a much better effect? Probably, but I don't think, no matter how she was dressed, it had any effect on the words
Yeah.
and the reaction by the public to her words.
I think I mean, there's a lot of questions here about mom. I know that from all reports over the years, a close relationship. Obviously, what goes on behind closed doors goes on behind closed doors. But one would wonder, what did Diddy's mom know about her son? Did she have any inkling that any of this stuff was going on? Was she along for the ride? Not just because it's her son, but because of the money, the fame, all the perks that came along with having Sean Diddy Combs as your son. Was that enough to make her look away from some of the stuff that may have been going on right there in plain sight? Or who knows? Maybe she really had absolutely no idea. And when the clock struck midnight and everybody who didn't want to be part of the freak offs went home, hopefully mom did too, and maybe was none the wiser.
Well, it's such a weird family dynamic, I think, in these types of situations. Most of us aren't billionaires. Most of us don't have this sort of hedonistic play going on in our lives day in and day out. And so you never know what kind of a role the mom has. But in normal lives, you don't want your mom a part of your freak offs, even if
Yeah.
your freak offs aren't really specifically freak offs, but they're just, your intimate relations with others. So you would think she would be kept secluded and away, and I'm sure she's quite happy as long as she's being supported. And by all accounts, she was supported financially by Diddy. And I think she's going to stick with him through and
Yeah.
through. I don't think there's any information that she knew anything.
I mean, all of that could end very quickly as this continues, at least the financial support and, the golden egg essentially that she's sitting on. Um, there's nothing to stop her from being called as a witness in this case. I mean, of course, she could plead the fifth, but there is nothing to stop. There's not like the spousal law that exists where you have to testify against your spouse. The kids could end up having to testify. She could end up having to testify. Is it wise that she made that statement? Does that not open her up more to scrutiny and, possible, a lot of criticism and a lot of questions if being cross-examined by the prosecution at some point in this case?
Well, I think she'll keep fast with what she said,
Hmm.
whether she's under oath or not under oath. I don't see that changing. But as you point out, where it could become problematic is if there's any evidence that DHS discovers that she knew about these or was involved or is on video in any way, shape, or form, it could absolutely discredit her. I would believe that the quality of these attorneys evaluated that before this statement was released and felt confident that she was cloaked in innocence and not part of this before they allowed it to be released.
And hopefully she is. Maybe that, I mean, obviously she has been charged with absolutely nothing. She's a mom. Her son's charged with horrible charges. So if she, who knows? But I guess time will tell. Not saying that she did know anything, but certainly the questions are fair to be asked. There has been allegations against his kids. We've seen that in some of the civil cases. They were there as well. And again, the question being brought up again, there's nothing to stop them from testimony, from providing testimony for the prosecution in this case, especially if maybe it could mean some immunity for some of the potential charges that are out there that could be facing the sons. Do you think that there's any chance that we could see family members, close family members, sons of Diddy, flipping on him at some point in this to protect their own butts from ending up in the same place that he's at right now?
I think we could see it. I would be surprised, quite frankly. Not that they're not vulnerable to possible prosecution. I think that it's very possible, that we've seen from some of the allegations already. But boy, to flip on their dad, it happens, but it's rare. And remember, even though the money is being slowly sucked away from attorneys and legal expenses and everything else, $1 billion takes a long time to go through, and you can bet they're going to be liquidating if even necessary.
Hmm.
So I don't think these his children will want to cut off the money,
Hmm.
and I think sooner or later we're going to see Diddy, and it's going to be later. Diddy will try to make a deal for himself. I don't know if that's going to happen, Tony,
Hmm.
because but it could, because I think there's a lot of people that we don't know about yet that were wrapped up in these freak offs that he could provide information against.
Could the government eventually seize all of his money? I mean, I know there's a lot of this going to attorneys, but could they eventually, at some point, in some way, shape, or form, say, "Look, you got this money by ill means, by your tactics, by all of this. All your money now is going to a victim compensation fund, where it ends up being kind of divvied out amongst all different people that have brought claims that are because we have the civil, we have the federal, two different things. But I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more charges come federally and a lot more victims be named federally as well. Is that an option for the judge at some point in time, or as the we get to sentencing at some point?
Absolutely. I mean, there's huge forfeiture statutes that are going to allow the government to seize anything that was ill-gotten. And talk about an accounting nightmare, because he was truly a mogul
Hmm.
and had so many different facets of his business. But you know who will probably get involved in this? And this is what happens in most of the time in RICO cases and large scale cases like this, is the IRS.
Hmm.
And I always say everyone should be way more terrified of the IRS than the FBI if they're involved in a financial fraud type scheme, because they are going to be able to determine were taxes paid on all of this, whether it was ill gotten or not. So look for IRS possible allegations to get involved in this case.
What a mess. I mean, so many things to comb through and determine, was this ill-gotten, was this not? What how do you, I mean, how do you even determine what's ill-gotten or not when you have such a pervasive dark lifestyle that really is just sitting over as a dark veil basically every single one of his industries.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's the problem, right? Even with large scale organized crime cases, which the RICO statute originally started for the mafioso type crimes,
Hmm.
that doesn't mean it can't be used for a crime like this, crimes, gang crimes. What matters is the predicate offenses. And we have all the predicate offenses necessary for a RICO, and the fact that he was a continuing criminal enterprise.
Hmm.
So Diddy has so many problems, and I agree with you that the money is just slowly going to be siphoned off. And will the government get a piece? They're going to get a piece. We
Yeah.
just don't know how big it's going to be. And that again can be used to filter back down to victims.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski. and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.